The worldwide wingsuit community is quite small, although it has grown in the last few decades. Even so, there were less than 1,000 of us. That is, until the military figured out how to turn our sport into a pretty nifty weapon system with a little help from the Special Parachute and Logistics Consortium, Spelco, in Germany. Spelco had built an experimental wingsuit called the Griffin that, in its original version, had a glide ratio of 5-to-1, when everything else was between 2.5 and 3-to-1. It was pretty exciting, except no one could afford one. It turned out the Navy SEAL teams picked up on the concept and quietly developed a combat model. Someone in the SEAL hierarchy concluded it might be useful to recruit guys from the wingsuit community. They even put together a special program that bypassed regular boot camp and all the other stuff a guy normally goes through before being assigned to BUDS, Basic, Underwater, Demolition, SEAL Training. So, I found myself in Coronado, California, training with a bunch of the toughest badasses I had ever met. BUDS was the hardest thing I ever did. Literally. Absolutely. Somehow I made it through. Don't ask me how I did it, because I don't have a clue. I just put one foot in front of the other, raised my arms for one more stroke in the surf, dug down and found another push-up. I just slogged along, firmly believing I was sucking hind tit, barely surviving, hoping against hope that I would make it through. As it turned out, to my total astonishment, I was one of the top guys in my class. Beyond BUDS, I went through a whole series of advanced training scenarios. Even though I had been recruited specifically for my wingsuit background, the SEALs insisted that I undergo the entire training cycle. 2 years later, yeah, that's right, a full 2 years later, I finally reported to my new outfit, the SEAL Winged Insertion Command, SWIC for short. SWIC was a team unto itself, filling a new slot in the Naval Special Warfare Group 5 hierarchy. It consisted of 3 teams. SWIC 1 covered the Pacific and Middle East. SWIC 2 covered Europe, the Med, and Africa. And SWIC 3 covered worldwide. SWIC 1 and 3 were based in Coronado, and SWIC 2 is in Norfolk. I was assigned to 2nd Platoon in SWIC 3. Lieutenant Brad Nelson was in charge, and his second was Lieutenant Tom Spitzer. I was in 1st Squad run by Senior Chief Jerry Bolt. My platoon was working closely with Spelco developing the latest incarnation of the Griffin. The Griffin was a one-man unit that enabled a person to fly, the only thing it still had in common with the wingsuits I had flown. The old wingsuits were really nothing more than a suit with fabric filling the gaps between stretched-out arms and ankles, and between the legs. The Griffin was a carapace that you strapped on your body. It stopped short of your feet, but in flight could extend to a full 2 meters, stretching beyond your feet. It attached to the legs and arms, with special controls for each hand, and had a broad Velcro band across the midriff. It had extensible delta wings with a 3-meter wingspan. The back end contained a small, steerable hypergolic rocket engine, and the left and right wings each contained pressurized hypergolic fuel components. Switches in the hand units controlled the fuel valves. The Griffin had a heads-up display with height over ground, airspeed, ground speed, compass, and GPS coordinates superimposed on a map, plus various system readouts. Here is the really amazing thing about these suckers. When I flew my old wingsuits, I had to pop a chute at about 300 meters, certainly no less than 100, because their typical airspeed was between 180 and 260 kilometers per hour that I needed to shed before landing. When flying a Griffin, I can land with the same light touch I get from my best sport parachute,